Hello, I apologize for not being able to be live with you, but things just didn't work out as I had planned. So, what I'm presenting today is called Maternal Rethinking of Global Feminist Solidarity for Social Justice, the Case of Gaza. And my co-author, Anwar Majne, she had initially hoped to be there in person, but things didn't work out. So then now I am presenting this online, and I apologize, that has to be asynchronous. So I'm from Bilkent University in Ankara, Turkey. Anwar, she is at Stonehill College, which is in Massachusetts. And we are feminist international politics scholars. We work in sort of the intersection of international relations, comparative politics, and gender studies. And I'd say our focus areas have really been women, gender, social movements, feminism, peace, conflict, security, violence. We could add justice, a number of different terms. And this paper has a revised argument where what we're saying is that motherhood could be an effective means of bringing different women who haven't formerly felt an affinity to feminism, bring them to not just feminist activism, but feminist peace mobilization, specifically in terms of conflict areas, and that this can help to build global solidarity networks that bring attention as well to the violence that different communities are experiencing. So in terms of our methodology, this is qualitative, meaning that it is positivist. We are seeking a causal explanation, but we're using a case study. And so our case study is Palestinian women with a focus on the current war in Gaza. We are using secondary sources because this is an active conflict zone, and this will include social media and traditional media accounts, United Nations and non-governmental organization reports, and potentially interviews. Either we will do our own eventually, or we'll gather them from secondary sources because we do want to make sure that we highlight women's voices. So our tentative research question is, in what ways does motherhood mobilize women for peace, social justice, globally across ethnic, national, and other differences? And in terms of our literature review, we're looking at two sort of main areas. The first is maternal thinking. Yes, Sarah Reddick's maternal thinking. And then the second part is motherhood and agency. So I think most of us at this conference are very familiar with maternal thinking, this notion that mothering frequently leads to peace causes if it's done in a thoughtful, philosophical kind of way. So many feminisms, particularly transnational and global justice feminisms, are often linked with peace. And so what we suggest is that maternal thinking remains relevant, particularly in a world of growing violence. We also want to highlight decolonial and intersectional feminisms. So the notion that motherhood might limit women's agency is actually a very Eurocentric notion. And so we're drawing on Oyewumi, who talks about in parts of West Africa, motherhood is this potent basis and justification for women's participation in politics. And we're also drawing on Maya Williams, who talks about how some Black women work to disrupt structural violences through their everyday caring practices that they see symbolized in a mother-child relationship. So moving into our case study. So we're looking at Palestinian women in the current war. And what we know is based from these secondary sources. We obviously have not gone there to gather data, but family units have been utterly destroyed in this conflict. 1.7 million Palestinians are now internally displaced persons. Something like 14,500 children and 9,500 women have been killed, and these numbers are coming from the 29th of April of this year, and this is out of a total of 35,000. Something like over 77,000 have been injured, 75% are estimated to be women or girls, and an estimated 63 women are killed every day, 37 of which are mothers. So women have also experienced, in addition to that kind of violence, various forms of reproductive and sexual violence. Something like 155,000 pregnant women and new mothers lack basic health care, and so that they and their children are struggling to survive. So, to quote from some United Nations reports, living conditions are unbearable. 4 out of 5 Gazans as of 16th April of this year already faced hunger and starvation, which is only increasing in the current context of the armed conflict. And women are giving birth without proper medical assistance. C-sections are being performed without anesthetics. We have sexual assaults being reported, which of course is leading to unwanted pregnancies. So this is really an epic humanitarian catastrophe, to quote the report. So this project has really changed fundamentally from what I was initially working on. I've had the paper rejected from 3 different journals, and so I brought in my colleague Anwar to help out, and she had this idea of bringing in the Palestinian case as an empirical case. And I think it's an important one given the current context. So our future plans are we want to draw out the case and really think about how is motherhood and reproductive violence being used to mobilize activists and organizations. And I think this might actually be maybe a better research question that we can sort of delve more into. So we see, mothers of the hostages, these Israeli hostages who are protesting for a ceasefire, who want a hostage deal, who are being, ignored or mocked by the Israeli media. We also see global attention to the reproductive violence experienced by Palestinian women. And so I think this is a really important avenue to show how we can cross, these different divides between Jewish people, between Muslims, between Israelis, between Palestinians. And so we think this is an important project. We also want to bring in the literature on the work of motherhood in Palestine. So that's something that we have not yet done yet, and really connect maternal peace politics, feminist mobilization, how we can be raising awareness about the violence in Palestine and transnational and global justice feminism. So that is what we have so far. Again, I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I hope you're all having a wonderful conference.